Hello, it's Riikka Kovasin here. This time I'm making some winter cards using A.B.Studio products. I'm using Santa's hat collection in these cards. You can see all the supplies that I've used in the description box. Let's get started. I started these cards by first cutting pieces out of the pattern paper and also using a die to cut the center of attention pieces out of the pattern sheet. I'm using a little bit bigger circle than to cut a silver circle underneath the focal point. I'm cutting one bigger piece out of the pattern paper to cover the center of the card, and then I'm cutting a smaller piece which I actually rip apart to add another layer to the card. I'm mixing the pale blue with the red, so some of the cards are just going to be blue on blue and the other ones have red in the background and then blue on top. When I then have the pieces done, I then attach them together using double-sided tape. Next I then add some mixed media to the background. This stage it's just adding some white gesso. It's kind of creating a base for the focal point to come on top, so it's dulling the contrast a little bit and giving that snowy effect to the cards. While the gesso dries, I'm also embossing the little twigs or branches using silver embossing powder. So I first press the chipboard piece to a Versamark ink pad and then sprinkle the embossing powder on top and then heat it. I repeat this to 4 branches. Now the gesso has had some time to dry, I then add some stamping on top. For this I'm using this kind of a newspaper print styled stamp and some black ink, and I'm just randomly stamping here and there, creating some visual texture to the splodge of color. After stamping I then add yet another layer to the center. This is kind of just adding a little bit of texture and a little bit of that frosty feeling. So I'm using an A.B.Studio stencil and adding this glitter paste through it. The paste looks white when it's not dried, but it will dry clear, so it's just giving this sparkly, glittery effect to the cards. You can't really tell the pattern either when it's dried. I then leave the cards air drying because this paste boils really easily if you use a heat tool. When the cards have dried for a while, I then start to make the composition. You can see the die cut round pieces of the silver cardstock and also the little winter birds. And I'm first layering the two together. So there's this silver frame kind of framing each bird picture. I'm using just double-sided tape to combine the two elements and then use foam tape to mount the piece to the card base, so there's a little bit of dimension. When I then have these elements added, I then continue with the embellishments. First I add the little silvery branch and then add some stamen on top, kind of that adding a little bit to the frosty effect and also making a little composition out of the stamen and also buttons. For those I'm using just craft glue to attach them to the cards. I then repeat the same thing to all 4 cards, adding first the focal point and then the embellishments. Now it's time to add just the finishing touches, and for that I'm using some splashes. I'm adding both white and silvery splashes to the cards. White kind of echoing falling snow and giving that little bit of snow effect there. And then I also added some silver splashes to complete the silver elements that are already in the cards. Even though the silver paint I chose is a little bit on the dark side, so it looks more like dark gray than silver. So if I would now add another thing there, then it would be a more of a pale silver color splashes. So they would echo the metallic silver a little bit better. But that's the finishing touches, and after that the cards are done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little card video, and with this one I'm saying a very big thank you to you all, because this is my last video for A.B.Studio. I'm stepping down in the beginning of 2024. So thank you for all your comments and watching the video, but I will continue making videos for my own channel. Thanks again, have a great holidays, and all the best for 2024. Thanks again. Bye.